in 2019 that 2019 was the year of the collab. I thought in 2020 that 2020 was the year of the collab. 2021 has brought just strange new levels of collaboration with things that aren't makeup related at all, and some of them have worked out. One example would be Elf by Chipotle, which people seem to have generally liked, even though the concept was very, very strange. Some of these have really not worked out, and today we're going to be redesigning 3 just terribly done collabs from this past year. I stuck to palettes. I believe that at least in 2 of these 3 cases, these were entire collections that came out as part of the collab. I'm not sure about the 3rd one, but I stuck to redesigning the palette. I feel, especially with lip products and cheek products to a lesser extent, they're sort of hard to mess up, you know. You put out a lipstick and you put the right sticker on it, or you change up the packaging a little bit, and you've managed an okay-ish collab product. Palettes seem to be harder, and they seem to be what brands mess up the most. So today we're going to go through my 3 redesigns. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this video, and let's get into it. The first collab we're going to go through is Urban Decay by Prince. This seemed to me to be a potentially promising collab. I mean, Prince is interesting. He definitely had a very signature style, and Urban Decay, at least old school Urban Decay, seems like a brand that could do that justice. And what we got was lackluster. There were 2 eyeshadow palettes. There was one that was in gold packaging that was fine. I mean, I was looking at these last night and I can't even remember what this gold one looked like. So it was definitely not good, but it wasn't awful. The purple palette though, the Let's Go Crazy palette, no. This is Prince. You're going to make a purple palette with Prince, with the name Let's Go Crazy, and it's going to look like this. This is so muted. I think that it would likely end up looking pretty chalky on people who had deeper skin tones, which again, it's Prince. What are you doing? I think that this is an okay purple palette for someone like me. Someone who doesn't particularly like a lot of depth in their eyeshadow looks and who would be looking to wear purples in their everyday life, you know, to the office, to more professional settings, maybe. But Prince Let's Go Crazy is not the palette to be purchasing to wear to the office. Instead, I decided to go for a much, much bolder purple palette. I've kept the same layout. I actually do like the packaging a lot. I think that's pretty cool. So it's again 10 shades, 2 rows, 5 columns, but we've just made the purples so much bolder, and we've gone all purple. We're not doing this 80-ish% purple. What are there? No, there's 5 purples in this purple Prince palette. Ridiculous. We're going all purple. Some are going to go a little bit more pink, some are going to go a little bit more blue-violet, but everything is purple. We have some depth here. We have 2 very deep purple mattes, one which is more of a cool tone purple, one of which is more of a red-violet. We have 4 mid-tone purples that are all super shimmery and incredibly, incredibly vibrant in quite varying tones. Though everything in here is very monochromatic, I don't think there are any 2 shades that would read as particularly similar on the eye, which I think is really important in a monochromatic palette, especially from a higher end brand. This is not cheap. if I'm going to pay for 10 eyeshadows from Urban Decay, I want to be getting 10 eyeshadows from Urban Decay, not 7 eyeshadows, but split between 10 different pans. That seems rather silly to me. And I think you could get quite a nice variety of looks. First of all, you have this nice range of purples, but then you have this really interesting purple transformer shade. This is very glittery, it's very much a topper, and I think that any look that you could make with the other 9 shades, you could add some of this white purple iridescent shade on top, and you've transformed it. I think it would be something really interesting. I think this is really fun. This is a party purple palette, while the one that Urban Decay actually put out was a work-appropriate purple palette. And I think that this one fits the Let's Go Crazy theme a heck of a lot better. Next up, we have some Colourpop. Colourpop came out with some really good collabs this year. I haven't 100% decided if I'm going to film this video or not, but I want to do something about the best collabs of 2021, and some of Colourpop's collabs would end up on that list. This one, however, I found disappointing. This is the second round of Colourpop with Hocus Pocus, and it's just lackluster. I can see kind of where they were trying to go with this, but this to me, it feels a little bit too cartoonish for Hocus Pocus. If you told me that this was a Halloween Town palette, I still wouldn't be wild about it, but I would understand it more. This doesn't fit Hocus Pocus at all, in my opinion. So instead, what I decided to do was use the same format from last year's palette, Gather Round Sisters, which I thought was a much better, much more interesting, and much more fitting to Hocus Pocus collab, and essentially make Gather Round Sisters Volume 2. So just like Gather Round Sisters, there are largely monochromatic columns within this 3x5 palette, and they're actually pretty similar layouts. You have 2 columns of neutrals, a column of reddish shades, a column of purples, and a column of greens. The major difference between these 2 palettes is that while Gather Round Sisters is a very warm-toned, grungy palette, this goes a little bit more towards jewel tones, and it's a little bit cooler. My goal with this was that they would be sister palettes, really, and that they could pair really nicely together, that you could easily dip into one and then, you know, fill out the look with shades from the other. I also thought that this would likely work for people who felt that the really warm tones in Gather Round Sisters Volume 1 didn't work out that well for them. I thought this Gather Round Sisters Volume 2 with slightly cooler tones would likely flatter them a bit more. Colors in this just better suit the tone as well as the actual color palette from the Hocus Pocus film a lot better than the 2021 Colourpop Hocus Pocus collab. Those just weren't the kinds of colors that you saw in the actual movie, though on a lot of levels, these are actually relatively similar color stories. This is also a half neutral, half colorful palette that dips into green and purple, just like the Colourpop Hocus Pocus collab that came out this year. The last palette that we're going to talk about is also, in my opinion, the worst offender on this list. First of all, I'm not sure why so many makeup brands have been collabing with Tetris. Tetris just doesn't seem that interesting. Are people so invested in Tetris that they would want to purchase a Tetris palette? I'm not, but you know, if you are, definitely let us know. I would be very interested to hear that there is actually an audience for this. But this is like the third brand, I think, that's collabed with Tetris. Very strange. But none of them have even done a good job of it. So, if you were wondering, this is the NYX by Tetris palette. It is an 80 pan palette, which, I mean, even Morphe tends to cut themselves off at 35, and they just went for 80. And it's a jumbled mess. It's not hard to set up a Tetris palette. I know this because I did it. I even went for the 80 pans the same way that NYX did, because why not? First of all, their first mistake was making these rectangular pans. I know that that square is a subset of rectangular, but this is living in the square rectangle. This is living in this portion of the Venn diagram. And why? The whole point of Tetris is that you can move the shapes, rotate them to fit within this grid. But no, apparently we're not going to do that. So the first change I made was just to get these into square pans and remove the empty space. The second piece was to arrange the shades in sets of 4, you know, the tetra part of Tetris. Tetra being the letter 4. The letter 4. I have a math degree. The number 4. So just rearranging these into monochromatic blocks of 4 shades, and then to make more clear where the boundaries between certain pieces were, because it was pretty clear in most of the cases, but every once in a while I would have put some pieces next to each other that were just close enough that it wasn't 100% clear to me and it started looking kind of jumbled. I added these white outlines of the individual Tetris pieces. I think that this made this look like an actual Tetris collab, not just an ugly 80 pan palette that you realized you were never going to be able to sell as is. So you found the cheapest IP that you could collaborate with and put a sticker, essentially, of that IP on the front. Is that harsh? Maybe, but it's also true. And there we have some truly awful collabs and some slightly better remakes of those collabs. Let me know what you thought of these palettes. Do you actually own any of these original collabs, and what do you think of them? I cannot say that I've seen too much about the Prince one or the NYX Tetris one. I have seen people with the Hocus Pocus one who seem to be quite happy with it, and I'm really glad about that. Just because something doesn't pique my interest or doesn't suit my tastes doesn't mean that it won't work fabulously for someone else. So let us know your thoughts on these collabs, and what do you think were some of the worst collabs of 2021? There's so many options that I feel like there will be quite a variety of responses. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and I really hope that I will see you all in my next video. Bye!